Bring this meeting to order of the Amador County Board of Supervisors. We just came out of closed session. 1A, workers' compensation claim, approved claim. Confidential minutes were approved. Would you mind please standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Yes.
I think item 1, a closed session, was direction given.
Okay. Thank you. We'll change that. Supervisor Crew is also via remote. And UC Davis is on the system up there somewhere.
Good morning.
Morning, sir. Since he is given an address, we don't need to vote to allow him to be there. Under public matters not on the agenda, on discussion items only, no action to be taken. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject within the jurisdiction of Amador County Board of Supervisors. However, any matter that requires action may be referred to staff and/or committee for report and recommendation for possible action at subsequent board meeting. Under this, I would like to take a moment of silence for a past Board of Supervisor, Richard Vincent, who passed away last Wednesday. He was a supervisor from 1995 to 2006. He was also a Vietnam and Korean War veteran. And he was also appointed by Governor Wilson when Supervisor Glenn Smith could not complete his term. So if you wouldn't mind having a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anybody else under the public matters not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Come forward.
Good morning. My name is Bill London, and ultimately this is about the nuisance noise ordinance, which I will address momentarily. I was recently asked if I would like to live in a world without discretion. No, I also wouldn't want to live in a world with discretion being the only determining factor. I would want the pendulum neither fully right nor left. A perfect world would be dead center. An example would be on a national level, mandatory minimum sentences, removing the discretion from the hands of well-meaning judges, thereby ensuring the will of the majority to prevail above the desires of the minority. Yes, there are tragedies, but by and large it works. Amador County has seen and will continue to see a large influx of residents where certainly the majority are good people and fine additions to our society. A small segment of the influx, along with some existing residents, will do as they please until stopped or corrected. The days of common sense and good neighbor are clearly in the rearview mirror for most. My complaint is about roosters that begin to howl at 4 a.m. daily in an area that is zoned residential. I have been told the ordinance does not apply. It does, and it's in print. It would be difficult to get any traction from the supervisors, as many of them have various animals. One can only hope that they would set a good example by being in areas zoned properly and being good neighbors. I was also told it would be unpopular to enforce. I will not even address that. I had a problem. Well, there was an ordinance that should apply. The zoning should also be an issue. So I contacted my supervisor, who indicated that my best form of regress to this issue would be to appear prior to the supervisors' meeting, where I would be allowed 3 minutes to persuade the supervisors to take a public stand on the validity of existing ordinances and zoning requirements. I find this entire exercise extremely sad. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay,
I have one little comment, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, I just want to thank Senator Gill's office, Senator Flores, and Tom McClintock's office for helping us out with the Title 22 issue with ARSA. We've got a temporary relief. We're still trying to make sure that that's going to be, continues on. I'm trying to figure out if we're going to be able to get the dam repaired this year or not, but water is flowing to Ione, so that's good because it's good for the whole system. So I just want to thank everybody for helping us out and supporting the effort. Thank you.
okay. Approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. I think he beat me.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Call for the vote. Jennifer?
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Onetto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Okay, that's 5-0. Approval of the items on consent agenda. Anybody from the public want to talk on this?
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
And second.
Okay. Call for the vote again.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Onetto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor excuse me, Carnell.
Aye.
Okay. Again, that
I get
passes.
2 votes? Let's go back to that workman's comp claim.
Okay. Senator Marie Alvarado Gill, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning.
Morning.
It's my honor
morning.
to, good morning, Supervisor Crew. It's my honor to be able to be in front of you here. Believe it or not, the first time I came and spoke in front of you was almost 20 years ago when I used to work here in the community, and now I have the pleasure of calling Amador County home for the past 5 years. So this is quite personal for me to be here again. I have the pleasure of acknowledging one of our very own from Amador County, not only as a woman of distinction, but as the person that we have decided is our Woman of the Year for Amador County. And I'm going to tell you why. So I met her. She was one of the first businesswomen that I met when I came here because, I mean, let's face it, who doesn't love an ice cold smoothie first thing in the morning, right? Her friendly demeanor at Jamba Juice was really what I looked forward to coming here to Amador County when I was working, and then now regularly as a resident. But it's not just what you see on the menu or what you see walking in the door, but it's that energy, that welcoming, positive hometown spirit, and then learning about her business model, business model about welcoming some of the most eligible workers in our community, those who are learning skills in business, those who are learning skills in customer service and accounting. This Woman of the Year simply embodies what it is to be an Amador County hometown hero. So I'm going to read the resolution before I ask her to come up here. So, Abra Harris. Abra Harris has been selected as the 2025 Amador County Woman of the Year for the 4th Senatorial District, and it is appropriate at this time to highlight her many achievements and extend to her special public recognition. And the state of California boasts a rich history of women who have made invaluable and far-reaching contributions to the well-being and improvement of their communities. And included among those stellar women is Abra Harris. Her accomplishments as a dedicated business owner, volunteer, and community advocate have been of great benefit to the people of both Amador and Calaveras counties. And whereas since 2010, Abra has successfully operated multiple businesses, including Jamba Juice and Dickies in Amador County, the hair salon in Calaveras County, and her entrepreneurial success and commitment to local commerce have earned her widespread recognition, including the prestigious Discovery Award from the Amador County Chamber of Commerce. And whereas besides her professional career, Abra has devoted her time to community service, including as an active volunteer with Jazzy's Legacy Dog Rescue, providing hands-on support and marketing expertise. And she has always extended her marketing skills to local businesses such as AirServe and Glass Doctor in further support of the local economy. And whereas a passionate supporter of youth development, Abra has contributed to the Motherlode Youth Soccer Program and championed individuals with disabilities through her advocacy for the Arc of Amador and Calaveras counties with state workability programs. And for her efforts in workforce development, she was recognized with the California Employability Program Award. And whereas able to balance her professional and philanthropic endeavors with her most cherished role, that of being a mother of 4. Abra Harris has made significant contributions to the well-being and improvement of the Amador County region, and she has served as a respective role model for public-spirited people throughout the state of California. And now, therefore, be it resolved by your Senator Marie Alvarado Gil that Abra Harris has been congratulated on her selection of the 2025 County Woman of the Year for the 4th Senatorial District. Abra, please come forward and accept your award. Everything I read is on here for you to hang up, and then we'd like to give you the microphone.
Wow, thank you so much. Those were so many nice words, and I'm honored to be chosen by Senator Gill for Amador County Woman of the Year. We live in a great community, and we really are blessed to be here, and I'm honored for all the people that I have got to impact and touch over the years of having my business. And I hope that I get to continue to develop and see people grow and help people out. I've definitely learned you never know what impact you might have on someone by meeting them or working alongside them, or that might be the only time that they get to interact with someone during their day, and you can really make an impact on people's lives. So I hope I get to continue that by helping people and animals. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, could you maybe turn around and get a good picture? I think Cam Merzlak's trying to get a picture with the senator and Abra. There you go.
Could we invite the board for a photograph before moving?
You like?
Sure. You know, I'd like to say something just for a second too, though. I would say that Abra has been one of the most hardworking ladies, business person, and not just ladies. She's even gives the guy's got problems. I mean, she's gonna wipe them out. She is just wonderful. No, she's always had a real good attitude. Just a good soul, works really hard, and good member of the community. So yeah, you think you couldn't have picked a better person. So that's what I see.
Congratulations, Abra.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Abra. This was a real thrill for us to be part of this proclamation. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Comment, I guess.
Come on.
My name is Michelle Garfinkel, and I'm the founder of Jazzy's Legacy. We're a rescue and no-kill sanctuary in Amador County, and Abra has taken us to a new level. She has gotten involved. She does all of our marketing. People know who we are now. And she has managed to help us get more dogs adopted this year than we did last year as a new rescue. So I just want to point that out. She's amazing.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Cam Merzlack of Jackson. Good morning, Chairman, members of the
Morning.
board.
Morning.
Abra, she, we'll take you back to the times of COVID. I had a number of friends that have food and restaurant industry businesses, and it just took a plummet. In order for Abra to keep her employees and her business going, she took on an hourly job at Safeway to make sure her employees and her business stayed open. And I will never forget that. This is why I call her Abra Cadabra. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Now we're going on to 3B, discussion and possible action relative to an appeal by Ron Reagan, RTR Investments, of the planning director's denial to consider cost reimbursement agreement intersection improvements at State Highway 49 and Jackson Gate Road.
Good morning. It's nice to see everybody again.
Morning.
This morning, on behalf of RTR Investments, honorable members of the board, staff, county, and online, we'd like to have a discussion about a proposed reimbursement benefit district. A benefit district is basically encompassing Highway 49, Jackson Gate, and Depot Road. It's basically answers some of the questions that were asked in February and March when we presented about the development infrastructure of and support for Martel Plaza, including an item that got removed, Depot Road. And this would basically help address that. The components of it is that we're currently approved for our 96-room hotel, bar, restaurant, retail center in Area 1, Area 2, fast food franchise, Area 3, a potential medical support area. And one of the things that we'd addressed coming up is that there, as we develop, we see future components coming on board. And that's exactly what happened. There's basically additional development that's now being asked to propose down Jackson Gate, which will improve the infrastructure and taxability. The second issue that's come up is a future residential development on the area between Crow's Light, between the Kennedy Mine and the province, potentially a 20 and a 21 low-income housing area. As such, for the benefit, the infrastructure improvements that have been identified, we have the road and frontage improvements, the sewer line upgrades with AWA, and the water and utility connections. And what would happen is this would allow for additional development and support. Please.
Are you upgrading water too?
I'm sorry?
Are you updating the water lines too?
There will be some water line improvement that's part of our AWA agreement. We had, as we said, we have the approval of AWA, and the additional utilage of our gray water system would basically help bring, put more water back, is what we're, part of our item. For a lot of people, there's not a direct understanding of what a reimbursement benefit does. What it's doing is it's providing a fair mechanism to recover all the infrastructure costs for future development. And what it is that the developer, as we are, we're doing a significant amount of improvements in front costs. This would allow that people who come along and try, would be benefiting from it to provide a fair reimbursement back to the original developer. That is going to help growth. California basically tends to utilize these reimbursement districts. And what they are is supporting, as I said, our future regional benefits. We have, as I said, the two 20 and 21 acre parcels that have been discussed with us. Because we're doing our improvements, they've come up and identified. We have our approved Caltrans. We have a traffic study. I had a letter that I submitted last night of support from the engineer director of the traffic study, and it was his recommendation to basically pursue this, because as they see our development, they look at all developments that go in the traffic study. So in doing this, this will also allow us on Jackson Gate and the back areas to improve additional commercial and corridor infrastructure. But what it does is, with this agreement, it reduces long-term potential cost to the county. It basically, by front-loading to us to do it and then reimbursing, this will help support the overall infrastructure of the area and development. The utilization is what we call a joint power agreement, a JPA. What this would do is this would put together the county, AWA, and developers on infrastructure developing, such as Depot Road, again, that's been brought up. By doing this, this committee would basically be in place to have a shared board working with transparent and oversight. It aligns governance, and it has an established basis under California Code 6500 under JPAs. In the financial fairness, what it's allowing is, again, it prevents overburdening the first developer or secondary developers and allows for infrastructure by basically putting equitable cost sharing. And it basically encourages and maintains that timely infrastructure that people tried to address when we did our traffic study and the Caltrans works. Very simply, it's a simplified process. We're here petitioning or appealing a resolution. The second step is an engineer report is submitted. That's been done to the planning department. Caltrans has pretty much approved. We've worked with planning on that, and the traffic study was just submitted as part of the requirements. Now what we would like to do is try to establish and have a group to look at all the potential cost and infrastructure scopes, i.e. again, this would allow us to address the comments on Depot Road. Lastly, it puts notices out to all the landowners and development, so everybody's brought in, and then it goes to a public hearing. So in doing this, it's a very straightforward and simplified process that has justification. As such, our request to the board is basically to form a JPA, authorize the planning staff to work together to negotiate a reimbursement district framework, and allow us to schedule basically a formalized process, an adoption of this if everybody feels it's successful. Lastly, in conclusion, JPAs, as we said, have had a lot of benefit, both successful in ways, and have generally benefited the local governments. We have previously done one when we did Gold Mine Estates on Argonaut about 20 years ago, and that, many people know, brought in the new fire station and new lines of drainage. One of the key points is that people get concerned with, is this a tax? No. Is this going to assess or be brought up onto other people? No. It's a development cost. It's a key way that the county can try to address things where they have a shortage of funds without trying to put a tax measure out. And it has precedence that goes back more than 150 years in utilization in California. So our basis request, again, is that we're hoping to support the county, support development, and support our own business. So I invite any questions and answers that we can do from the board or for the community, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Yeah. You're looking to do some infrastructure work there,
Yes, sir.
like road work, underground work?
Right. The approved Caltrans works that will be commencing
Sure.
very shortly. The widening of Jackson Gate. This will, I will become the most hated man in the county.
Would you see yourself doing that work or what?
Yes. Yes.
Your own construction firm?
No. That's being subbed out. None of the works that are being done by us as a developer, we have a design build contractor, Lindsay, out of Victor, California. We have Tressler and Simmons is lined up to do the road and infrastructure work. Campbell Construction will be participating a bit. But we are only, as a developer, we will not be doing the works directly.
Mm-hmm. 'Cause I did appreciate your conclusion as far as the transparency, oversight, and accountability. That's one concern I'd have, just.
Yes. And we think, again, the big one that came up when we addressed and the board approved our ability to move forward was the fact that we were looking at additional development, and that would allow us to try to do things on Depot, which got pushed forward, and we mentioned that we would try to continue working on that process. So this is part of our accountability of what we discussed in March.
One issue I could see is, you know, it's, well, maybe we hear from some people in the audience too, though.
Yes.
Supervisor Epperson.
I'm done.
Yeah, I just said, do you anticipate this to increase your cost? Like, let's say they go down, they assess the rest of the area, find out that there's future development, and then that burden, I assume, would be shared by you initially. The repayment process would be either to the county or to the initial developer, I would assume. Is that
What it does is, you know, the initial works that we're all doing, we have to do.
right?
It's just going to provide a way in future that if people start improving or piggybacking off of it, that the developer over 20 years would get reimbursed some of the cost back for doing that upfront cost for the county.
Okay.
So there's really going to be no county, except for the overview. There's no tax, no increase, no funding, no need for the county. It's allowing us as developers to help the county do the work, and the city of Jackson, because they are piggybacked.
And would this have a sunset date? Like, and let's say if it doesn't develop in 20 years, I mean, you could say there's an impact or a benefit, but I mean,
Generally, a timetable would be set when the group gets together. I've seen them from 5 years to 20 years. It just depends on.
this seems to me if an improvement happens and it drives development, it'd be pretty obvious pretty quick. If it goes on so long, I mean, it may have some benefit, but.
Yes, yeah.
And then other landowners, have you heard anything from them, or they are?
We've had discussions, and that's how we know about the 20 and 21 subdivision. They approached us. It's only a developer cost. So somebody who's there who's not going to do any new building, I'll use Lynch like for an example, it's not going to affect them. They're going to benefit from the new roadway and stuff, but it's going to not have any cost burden. It's only to future development.
Okay, thank you.
They did bring the infrastructure to you.
I'm sorry?
They did bring the infrastructure that you're tying into. They paid for that already, that you're benefiting from.
Yes. We're now taking, for all the work that was done, again, not a lot of work has been done there over the past 20 years.
There's a $90,000 water line that got brought to you.
Right. Those are part of the AWA fees that we tie into and then we support.
One question I'd have too is, what about, say, let's just hypothetically, you put in a 12-inch sewer line, and people that built after you are supposed to possibly reimburse you a portion of that cost for their project. What happens if they need maybe a 16-inch line?
Then they will probably be approaching you just as we are right now.
Well, yeah, but are you going to ask them to pay, their development, to pay some development fees because you put infrastructure in?
No, usually there's, in my experience, and I'll let my father talk after it, but in my experience on this is basically the 12 inches was in and it gets expanded out. There's a cost differential, and that would be worked on, and that usually another developer sometimes asks for a JPA on top of a JPA.
And I mean, also for some of the smaller, maybe a smaller development back there, they could probably do some development right now with a small development with having to do nothing. Just go do it. Make some impact fees, but being as maybe you're bringing a big project, you have to do a lot. And you're gonna say, well, okay, you're putting in, what was it like, 300, was it 200 units, I think, something like that, roughly, as far as the rooms?
For the hotel,
Yeah,
it's 96 rooms.
96, okay. I thought it was 196, but, okay, so you're putting 96 rooms in, and so you have to build maybe a fairly extensive roadway there. And so maybe somebody can put in maybe a 10-room little facility down the road from you and not have to do anything. So you just say, well, I went and did all this work here, and I put in 96 rooms, and you're putting in 10 rooms, so you have to pay a portion of what you paid to upgrade it. If they did a small project, they may not even have to pay anything.
That would be part of the determination of the JPA. And that would not be us. We would, be working with them, but again.
I just see where it
there's a
could
common
get
sense-
kind of convoluted, I would think.
That's why we try to establish very distinct measures with the board that's governing on, common sense is the most applicable part of that. again, the road, the roadway and infrastructure and stuff is gonna be significantly done. We're looking more at large developments and things like a double subdivision or
Well,
expansion.
if you do it, you're gonna cover everybody, I would think.
Yes, I mean,
You'd
everybody.
you'd have to if it was done.
The whole county is going to benefit off of the expansion of Jackson Gate, a right turn lane and a direct line. And again, with the water and sewer works that are being done and the drainage coming off the hill, there's a benefit. This is a way of basically, if it's fair and equitable, a way of recovering. And that's what a JPA does. It puts together independent oversight and governance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Want to hear from the public?
Jason Kazad. I have adjacent property to the proposed project. So my property has 2 metal shops on it. I put one in 2002, and I wasn't required to do very much. The second shop, I think I asked for a permit 2004, and I went in, and I was told basically by AFPD that I needed a certain flow rate from the water line for a hydrant a certain distance from the building, et cetera, et cetera. My closest hydrant that I could get to was over at Antonio's, which is now Vince Aguirre's office. They tested the flow rate out of that hydrant, and it wasn't sufficient because it was only a 6-inch main feeding it from Highway 49. So in order to satisfy AFPD to get my permit, I had to pay at my own cost to update the 6-inch line coming from Highway 49 to the eastern edge of my property to an 8-inch main to satisfy AFPD. So that was, at that time, was about $85,000 in cost to me. So I guess my question is, I did that for my development and ate it, and it is what it is.
That'd probably cost you 170 today.
Yeah, and for my project, it was a 60 by 40 building that I was adding, metal building. It wasn't, anything giant. It was probably, the $85,000 is probably about half of that entire project, right, that I was putting together. So just a question there, am I gonna get reimbursed for that? I don't expect to. That was part of my cost of doing business, right? For the record, I'm against this. I think each developer should deal with their own stuff. And like Supervisor Oneto brought up, if I do want to say add a small shop building to my property, so I'm going to ask for a building permit in a couple of years, now I have to, at this point, I know I wouldn't have to do any infrastructure development to get that permit, right, currently. But now if this agreement goes into place, now I'm going to have to take part of this and help pay for his giant hotel that he wants ingress and egress to. So I'm against it, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if it could be that if you wanted to build a building, or you want to build a building, that then they would have to chip in to help him. I don't know how that would work. I guess that's why the agreement, I guess.
Actually, Chuck, can you come forward if, on that type of a situation, if it's just a small infrastructure portion, would that developer need to pay for everything sitting there? If he's just adding another shop, he's not really adding any more customers or anybody else going up and down.
That would depend on the details of the zone of benefit or the cost-sharing agreement, and that's where the devil's in the details of that, and that's how it's set up as to whether a small project or a large project pays a proportionate share of those costs. I don't think you can go back and do it retroactively, but certainly anything going forward could be subject to either an assessment or cost sharing, depending on how it's set up.
You said no retroactivity then? As far as the water line, they can't say, hey, he put in water line for hydrants.
I don't see this being able to reach back in time and say.
Okay.
Because my concern would be, let's say Mr. Kazad's project, he wants to add a building, the hotel or whatever else builds by takes up that extra capacity that he built for his project, and now they say you need an 8-inch line. Well, he comes and wants to build another building, they say, and by the way, you have to upgrade to a 10-inch. Now, he paid $85,000 so many years ago to be able to build, and now he can't because the line's not big enough to build the next thing for him. Is that a reasonable scenario? I mean,
Yes, very reasonable.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sure. So better build your building, Jason.
You better get going. That's what I'm saying.
Good morning.
Morning.
Wayne Vinciguerra, managing partner of the Vinciguerra Real Estate Investments. We're the old Amador Central Railway, identified in your packet as the 21-acre project proposed for development. We have no proposal for development at this time. As was mentioned by Sean Reagan there, both Jason and I are significant stakeholders in this corridor. We've got no notice of this. We're in shock and awe that this could have slipped through under the radar and not been here. So we're kind of ill-prepared for this to begin with. We're very much ad-libbing this today on about 12 hours' notice to be here. And
Well, this would be just the start of a process. It wouldn't be, we're not making a decision today. So there, you know, still have to run through a whole complete process.
Wonderful.
This is-
Sean, do you still have the clicker? You still have it? Could you bring up the second photo that came up there, if possible? And Patrick, it looks like you're in the building, but are you in quarantine?
He had a medical procedure.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so this gives us a little good lay of the land here. I'll point to a few things here.
Oops. I hate to say this, but I need you back at the microphone to,
How about if he shows us, then he goes back to the microphone?
okay. Sorry about that. I have people online that,
No worries. So that diagonal line that I pointed to, even if they're not able to see it online, that shows where there is a triangle on the far left, that alignment goes straight across to just about 5 feet off the corner of the darkest roof building right there. Okay, at parcel 3 it shows there. Okay, so the front portion of that is the proposed development there now. The other quadrant from the buildings on the left will be the next person that will speak. Kazad's is just behind that. So what Jason alluded to is he ran a water line from the highway all the way down past that line to his property. Vinciguerra provided the easement for the water agency, or the Jackson Water Works, to pipe along the easterly side of our property to bring it up to the treatment plant of Jackson Water Works, that at a later date, when they started purchasing treated property, we constructed the line that came from the end of our property, not covered in that, to join up with Kazad's and provide a pressure reducing station. The buildings on the left side there are a previous Reagan development where they benefited from both the construction that Kazad did and the connection that Vinciguerra provided, easements and constructed. We didn't have a development agreement like that. It was necessary for just what we needed to do. The current proposed development and benefit district overview, like I say, we never received any information on this. We would certainly like to discuss, would certainly negotiate in good faith, but I think the good faith has gone away in this matter. Because the current area that must be under a grading permit, I don't know, but the current development, and I'll point to a couple of lines here. The Reagan development has gone roughshod over properties that Vinciguerra owns with their clearing and grubbing. of probably in excess of an acre. So my next contact will be the building department to try to get some demarcation from the developer to show his property limits. Because they've gone to the east and to the north, the property line is just about 4 feet beyond the front of that hotel. And my last conversation with Reagan, following the last meeting where you approved the zoning height, when they didn't get the board to do a quasi approval of the widening of Depot Road. The conversation was simple and short. When I was pointing out that the county didn't own the road that we did, that at some point we would come under the adverse taking, which is similar to the Sheets case that the Reagans identified in their proposal to the board here for the review, that somehow the Sheets case provided them more tenable rights, that they could potentially file a lawsuit against the county and cite that one. That's wholesale incorrect, because the Sheets case only identified the change from the Nolan-Dolan test, the two preceding cases for land use and government-imposed requirements, that the nexus be that there are immediate benefits of it. So needing to develop the frontage of Caltrans and put a turning lane on the property as supported by the 96-unit hotel meets the test of the nexus of reasonable costs associated with this development. Sheets did not, of $24,000 to build a modular home in El Dorado County, and they tried to use it under the guise that the Board of Supervisors had provided the approval of that traffic mitigation and impact fees, and that's just the way it went down. What's happening here is somebody's trying to get this in place that I don't think is appropriate in any form, because the request upon them now for this hotel is reasonable under the circumstances. They already evaded the cost of improving 1,000 feet of Depot Road because the county didn't own that road to provide it to them. In the absence of that last approval for the height restriction may have included Depot Road. Surely we wouldn't try to put that down the road on Kazad or the Bryson property or the next property beyond ours. I would certainly like to have Depot Road approved, but I wouldn't think that somebody else had to pay that bill. And we realized that when we develop ours, we're probably going to be stuck with Jackson Gate Road from the end of that triangle to the end, and possibly Depot Road, bringing that into a proper. And like you say, I don't see any chance of going retroactive. So it's a first in is a free out. Is that what that is here? The first person in is free. And further, in the time that I've been with these developments and working with Reagan, I know that when they developed the stuff on the left side, they kicked the can down the road and didn't make that intersection improvement upon a commitment, and I don't know about the details, but an agreement with Caltrans to correct the intersection at a later date because the stoplight was moved farther north in the anticipation of this. So Reagan's been benefiting from a free ride from everybody for quite some time, and I'm sorry that he has to pay a little bit now, but I don't want the burden of this cost that I can't control down the road without that, because we're certainly going to be bound with picking it up from that diagonal line to the end. And the best that I can hope for would be to partner with the next developer of that piece of property and pay for our cost of going down Jackson Gate Road. So I can assure you that Vince Aguirre won't be before you trying to pin that down on the next person down the line, the old Fuller Trust or Lyman, whoever owns the next piece of property, on a theory that they may develop. Because I don't know if this development in ours will occur in our lifetime, because we're kind of a limited use of an industrial basis. And as Jason said, the best I see in the next 20 years is 1 or 2 shop buildings. So I don't want to be burdened with this in a way that we can't control. So I would say that if what Chairman Brown is saying, that if we are in the infancy of this, certainly let's table it from here and let's see what somebody brings forward. But I think that a legislative approval now burdens us with a 30-day timeline to attempt to appeal it. If there is a process that's going to go down the line, let's get to that point. Let's notify the people. Let's let everybody participate
Question
in this
on
thing
that.
from the inception.
Did RTR Investments or the Regans contact you about this proposal?
Not this at all.
No, I think they should have. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Is there any questions?
No, I think. Thank you. Yes.
Before we, Chuck Beatty with the Planning Department, before we have a protracted discussion about the Supreme Court cases on extractions from property owners, I want to point out that there's been no county extraction on the Reagan site. That hasn't happened. There's been no mitigation measure or condition of approval imposed to put in the turn lane that's proposed with the hotel site. That turn lane has been included with prior iterations of development that were proposed on that project, the Maverick fueling station, the Circle K, going back several years. So the county hasn't made an extraction on that property. There wasn't a discussion of extractions until the county was approached under off-agenda matters to do an extraction against Reagan for speculative development, and I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Dwayne Van Heusen. I'm going to walk to that chart over there and let you guys know what piece of property that I have in escrow. I'm the new guy on the block. I came into this whole scenario about a month and a half ago. With regard to notices, I was aware of this benefit district process Saturday about, maybe 10:30, 10:45 in the morning. So I had very little time to prepare for it. And as of Saturday, after I thought about it, I thought, you know what? As a developer of that 21 acres, I have no problem with paying my fair share. We hear that a lot lately these days. I have no problem with paying my fair share as a developer. But the improvements for what is going to happen from 49 on back, the improvements need to work. Now, I was here, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever it was, and I had a 3-minute time period to express my feelings. And I tried to get it all in that 3 minutes. But here's the thing. My big problem that I have is Jackson Gate Road. Right now, Jackson Gate Road is a health and safety issue. It's 9 foot wide on each lane. There's no curb, no gutter, no sidewalk, no shoulder. 9 foot wide each way. You've got a ton of PG&E trucks coming in and out of their yard. They're 8.5 foot wide. You've got Vince Segura, who has big rigs. I think they're 8.5 foot wide. I'm pretty sure about that. Same thing with Lynch's Automotive, with Kazad's property. Jackson Gate Road right now is a life and safety issue. It needs to be fixed. Now, when this development came in with Ron Reagan, the conditions were do nothing with Jackson Gate Road, pave it over, maybe stripe it, and that's it. And I had an issue with that from day one because all of this right here, Vince Segura's 21 acres, my 21 acres, I guess he has got 20 acres, my 21 acres, and everybody else comes to 57 acres. And it looks like it's going to get fed just through Jackson Gate Road. 1 9 foot wide road feeds 57 acres. That's completely substandard, in my humble opinion. So I have not met Ron Reagan until yesterday. First time I met him, I invited him to my office, said, let's talk. Let's try to work something out. So Ron Reagan came over. We met at 2 o'clock. We adjourned at 5. We had a 3-hour discussion. We discussed a lot of issues here. It started out me telling him that I have no problem with sharing some of the costs because I'm going to be doing a development. I don't know what it is. The paperwork says I'm doing apartments. I'm probably not going to do apartments. I don't know what I'm going to do. I bought the property because next to that 21 acres is 5 acres on the corner that I've had for quite a few years. So we talked about many, many issues. I told him I support paying my share of the improvements, but we got to get through stage 1. And stage 1 is the transportation circulation of 57 acres. And one 9-foot wide road is not sufficient. And I asked him, I says, can you move your project over? He told me he can't. He can't move it over. He can't modify because he's ready to get a building permit in what, the next 90 days? 120 days? Anyway, so there was a traffic study done. I have a question for you, Sean. Did Caltrans say it's okay for one 9-foot wide road to come off of 49 and that's sufficient?
I'm going to go to the map.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
As Wayne mentioned, from this point is his property, that's over. From this point, the grading plan was submitted, the traffic study done, goes from here to here. We will be widening.
Actually, come on up to the speaker first and run the numbers that you have sitting up there. You can kind of explain it via the numbers.
So basically, as Wayne said, where number 3 is, there's a diagonal there. From that point to the grading plan that has been submitted and based on the traffic study, what Caltrans has done is improved. We will have to put in a left turn lane and we'll have to put in a white lane. So there's a dedication that moves over on the property that a right turn lane will be built so that you will be able to go left and right.
So you're talking 2 lanes going westbound.
Left, straight, and right. And then there'll be a merged lane on the
2
corner.
lanes.
Yes, it'll be widened.
Okay, what about coming in, where all the traffic to service 57 acres, including your 96 units, comes into that 57-acre development? How many lanes is that?
That would be 4, because they're not, the Caltrans plan that was submitted and that has been approved, it's basically on the right side.
Ron, you told me last night at 4:30, 1 lane going in. What?
There's
1 lane going in, 2 lanes going out.
Just to introduce myself, I'm Ron Reagan, RTR Investments. I think our conversation related to whether or not the lanes that were coming in there would be supported by the traffic study. And in our conversation, we're talking about Depot Road as possibly being increased in utilization. But I pointed out that that's on Vince Aguirre's property and so on. And that will probably revolve around what the future lies with Vince Aguirre's and my improvements. The other lane that's coming in there, currently there are 2 lanes coming in, and Caltrans had many years ago indicated they wanted to have a right end added and a left hand added, so there would be 3 coming in to the intersection, and that was what they felt was, and the county at the time felt was sufficient. Now, in our conversations, I'm only talking about that improvement as to, you brought up the potential that there is a need to have an intersection to serve your 21 acres. And that 21 acres would then need a larger encroachment And their suggestion was that maybe Vince Aguirre might entertain an encroachment, so there would be like a four-way. And then that could then be hooked up to Depot Road, which then Depot Road could be potentially have an intersection that is straight as opposed to where it curves around, so that the potential future intersection across the road for SPI, where the intersection, the Caltrans wants the intersections to be synonymous. In other words, side by side, instead of, that way, if they had a straight in intersection, it would also be directly opposite to the SPI future intersection. So our conversation was, how about that? I think that was the case.
So, hold on just for a second. Let's back this truck up here for,
Okay.
excuse the terminology. So, at your present construction, everything that you're doing, it is two lanes coming in that will funnel to one, coming into the project, 3 lanes going out, left, straight, and a right turn.
Right.
Currently as a project.
Yes.
Okay.
That's approved by Caltrans and the
Yeah.
traffic study.
And
Excuse me, let me step in here. Do you have this on, in writing? Do you have a site plan for this? Because there's been no site plan for anything we've been talking about on this project for months. No site plan at the planning commission, no site plan at all. The only site plan that I have is the 2-lane road. Do you have do you have something that shows the 2 lanes going in and 3 lanes coming out? Because that's 5 lanes.
we've submitted for a grading permit.
Right.
And we have provided, as part of the process and
But you haven't received your
submission,
building permit.
We provided for the supervisors to review a site plan, and it
Right.
also shows the improvements that were proposed by Caltrans. Caltrans has not approved it yet because they will not review, as with the Public Works, until the traffic study is done. And the traffic study is almost done. And what we asked the
The traffic study we just submitted. So we submitted that up front.
Right.
Oh,
So we're still,
my
in-
apologies.
we're still in the infancy of all this. It's
Yeah.
still what we're still trying to find out here.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess to clarify, the most important part, there are more and more people as the development's going on, more and more people are coming up and coming in. A JPA would get people together, get a mediator, and we all get to work together to do it. That's the proposal of a JPA. It's to get all the developers, all the future developers in.
Okay, well, I think the JPA might be a good idea, but I think you gotta take a look at the traffic study first. And you have to take a look at how the traffic study and the road circulation serves everybody. Because right now, with that 1 lane going in, and that's what I'm staying with right now, unless I see something differently, with 1 9-foot lane servicing 57 acres, that makes my 21 acres unbuildable, Wayne's 20 acres unbuildable, and it creates a huge problem with the county.
Have you spoken to the actual owner of the 21 acres? Are they involved in this?
Oh, wait a minute, you mean the 21 acres that I'm buying?
Well, you haven't purchased it yet, so I.
No, it's an escrow. I'm under
Different
contract.
than that you own it.
Yeah, no, I'm under contract, and I'm in my due diligence time period. So that's why I'm jumping in and being very concerned about how the circulation goes. Now, I know there's a lot of other issues. There's fire department issues, there's water issues, there's sewer issues. But as far as I'm concerned, the main one right now, because it affects what kind of easements you guys are gonna get on the Reagan property to allow for future road expansion. Now, they don't have to build 5 lanes, which would be 2 lanes in and 3 lanes out. They don't have to build it, but they have to provide the easements for it. And so when you build a hotel and don't provide the right-of-way for that, then that means future development, like for example, me going in there to finish widening Jackson Gate Road, I'm not able to do that because there's a hotel in the way. That kills development on everything else that the county has currently zoned for commercial. So I think we need to take a look at this Jackson Gate Road before we go further and start worrying about, who's going to pay for what? Because if all of us landowners are going to pay for Jackson Gate Road, it needs to work for everybody. It's not working for everybody right now with the current design.
Thank you. I think that what
Go ahead.
the future proposal is would be handled in part of the process that they usually go through for the JPA. In other words, there's no commitment. There's no commitment on it, as to what the effect of the potential developments. But this process allows this input to come together and have some rational planning that goes into it. The only thing that we are here for was to request that the county be allowed to review this, the County Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, when I submitted a letter to them, they said this was not proper unless they felt they had to deny it because it had to come to the board. We're presenting to the board the opportunity for all the developers to come together and work with the county to address these issues. Now, a reimbursement agreement would be beneficial for all of them. In other words, everybody participates. Now, if the bottom line is we're going forward because I feel that we confidently that we're within the legal right to go for a building permit. And as long as we meet the requirements of Caltrans, Public Works, and so on. Now, what we would like to do is when I heard about the additional stuff, I felt that it would be appropriate to have the county review the future. And maybe there would be additional efforts needed to meet traffic, i.e., Depot Road could be another avenue that could be connected to alleviate any future traffic that may be generated by development from the city limits of Jackson Gate to Highway 49. Now, if it doesn't happen, the way it works is that I pay for the intersection, I put it in, and I'm obligated to meet the requirements of the county and the state, and to meet the current requirements. If I don't understand why the other property owners wouldn't want to participate in an agreement that if I've already paid for it when I do my development, I'm asking for if my improvements assist and provide them with benefit for so many traffic trips, then why shouldn't I ask to be reimbursed for benefits for them that I'm putting up in front? Now, if they never develop it, I have to pay for it. I never get reimbursed because it never got developed. So I don't understand why they are not wanting to at least agree to sit down with the Planning Commission and go through the process of each landowner. And because this is not a 218 proposition where existing landowners participate, this is a JPA where only the future development pays, only the future, and it benefits the county. That's my response to this requirement.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Crew, you have a question?
Oh, I have a couple of comments. I think just the discussion this morning and all the turmoil should tell us that we're nowhere ready to even consider an improvement district. The other landowners don't seem to like the traffic plan. And in my understanding, the Regans have a plan with Caltrans that was okay for them to build their property. Standalone, they don't need help, it's over. So the next guy who comes along has to make the improvements, why he would have to do that on a standalone basis. And just being in a JPA with a water agency at any time, I think is a really bad idea. Because when they go bankrupt, they're going to stick it back on us. So we're talking about the future and a project that's approved. I think just let the project go, forget about this business district until there is some development that's not just pie in the sky. You know, I may build apartments, but I may not. You know, that kind of thing. How are we supposed to supervise that? We want to supervise the facts as they come. And it may never happen, as Wayne Vinciguerra said. And Wayne, I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention. I'm in a room in my, I had a right lower leg amputation, and I'm getting out of the hospital here in a couple of days. That's why I looked at you funny when you asked me if I was in quarantine. So that's just my comments. It's something we don't even want to get involved in.
So my question to you is, I've seen this across the country in numerous places when there's a new development and they have to widen the intersection. It's just a given. But another option that I see here is that there's land set aside for the 5 lanes that we're talking about, but it doesn't get built. It's just that section of the intersection is just sitting there empty. And so when somebody down the road wants to invest into it to, you know, allow their development, and that little piece of 100-foot of property becomes very expensive for the original developer, you know, as far as an easement and stuff like that. Is that another option you would be looking at?
Right now, we were just trying, to be honest, just get a JPA out and get the developers and the
Okay.
county and planners together and then build upon there. I'm, as you know, rather new here, but I seem to have noticed things between the county and the city. You take a simple idea to get people to talk, and it turns into, you know, more. We just went through this on Victory Village. A simple MOU so that we can work together to build a grant becomes that you're doing it. We're not saying that. This is a way to get everybody together. So we're following the flow. As Ron said, he gave a letter to planning.
Looks like you got them together, all right.
We're building the access and the thing. Caltrans is approved. The drawings are there. If anybody wants to see, you can contact me or contact planning. The traffic study was done. The traffic study supports the report. And that's what happened is the engineer of record on the letter I gave you, when he saw the traffic study, and he then researched the property in escrow and future growth, he recommended we ought to seek maybe a JPA to hopefully help everybody balance.
So, but the real thing is, right now, your traffic study is running with a 5-lane.
It runs with the drawing as in right now. The one coming in off 49 and the left, right, and straight with the right merge lane on 49.
So that's just 4 lanes then?
It's a 4 lane. It's 3 at that corner. Right, and then one coming in.
That's it.
Yep,
Then you have Depot Road as
Well, Depot Road is
Depot Road,
inconsequential to this meeting because
No.
it's not owned by,
No.
you know, anybody here.
So
I mean,
the-
yeah, there is owned, but.
I think there's a mechanism in place already to get people together. It's a planning commission meeting and it's a supervisor's meeting where people can discuss. This is just a plan to get the future people to pay for the current development. But you are the future. The previous people already paid for their developments. We are in the future right now. And I think some of your neighbors, they have the capability of building whatever improvements they needed, and they have the ability to do a lot of it themselves, which means they could do it possibly for a lot less than having to pay for however you choose to do it. I don't think they should have to pay for however you choose to do the development.
You just took my next question. But no, and I'm kind of like, but I'm in agreement with Supervisor Crew. So just putting that on the table. But question I'd have too is kind of almost what Logan was saying. So if they go and hire the most expensive contractor around, does that mean that's what people have to reimburse them by? Or how's that work?
Again, that is resolved in the JPA. That's a discussion that would take place within planners and within the developers. Most of these JPA agreements, again, they start.
I can see that being, I can see that being a possible scenario that could be really ugly. I mean, if you may have Vince Square Construction, like Supervisor Carnell was saying, say, hey, I can do that for $500,000. And you go out and you hire somebody and you spend $1.5 million. Does that mean now they're on the hook for $1.5 million? When maybe they could have done it for themselves for 500?
Again, that would be resolved in the JPA. We're getting very deep into something that's just getting everybody together and find everybody's ideas. And that's what we try to focus on. We're going to build. It is an upfront cost to us. The design is 2011 Caltrans, that when they took a look at AMPM and everything there.
What I could see is maybe is if you talk to your neighbors and if they want to do something more extensive, maybe you do a private agreement saying, hey, they may say, we'll put up money if you make it bigger and wider because we want to do this or that, and that'll allow us to do a project, yada, yada, yada. I can understand that. But what you're doing, I think would be, like you said, it's all going to be in the JP. I can see it being, if we put this horse before the cart, it might be a pretty unusual cart by the time we're done. So, yeah.
The only thing
I
is,
have real problems with this.
as the one person has brought up this, we don't want this to also become a choke point, that can't be changed. As you drive in there, O'Reilly's is off to the right. You can't change that parking lot. That's a wall sitting there. So.
Yeah, not without taking out O'Reilly's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so we just need to be, my only opinion is that we need to just be careful looking at what we do.
And that's where I can see them, as far as the landowners, if they want to have a sidebar and come to some kind of conclusion, fine. I don't want to be foisting this on them. I think it'd be a disservice to them.
I just have one last thought. We varied from a long-standing ordinance for the height. And that whole presentation, there were pictures and slides, and they all included you were already going to do this.
Yes.
Like it was part of the promise that you were going to make these improvements.
Yes, we're doing
I
those.
feel a little bit like, I can't speak for the other supervisors, I got a lot of heat for saying, sure, it can be taller. And then now we're back here and like all our neighbors are upset, and I don't know. I feel like the promise was you were gonna do this you were paying for this improvement in the road.
Package.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I felt like we got promised.
And we clarified that Depot Road was Wayne Seguera property and not county, and that if other improvements do, this is a way of supporting that would support something like Depot Road. It's not gonna change what we're doing. What we're saying is if that's gonna go, we are gonna be part of Depot Road. Now, we could basically sit there and say, hey, Depot Road's not a part of it. In this way, it makes us part of the other people that would want to develop the intersection or Depot Road. So by not doing it, we just stick with where we are. We're gonna build our intersection, that's not changing. We're trying to be proactive and trying to work with people, just happen to be getting before and getting a committee together to get everybody to talk to is what a JPA is for, that's the start. It was a recommendation made to try to do, to get everybody together.
Sean, the way I could see myself supporting this, I don't now, is if you got the people that were back behind that road came together and said, hey, we want to work together, we want to memorialize this in a JPA, that, Vince Square wants to do this, maybe person has the Bryson property in escrow, wants to do that, Kazad wants to do this, and you want the county to almost put an agreement together, administered by the county, hey, fine. But as far as to come in and say, I want to do this, and they're all going to have to come along with it, I don't support it.
That's not what a JPA is. What has happened since we agreed in March to do? We cleared the land so that we could stake the land out. Did we go a little bit on Vince Aguirre's thing? Yes. How am I supposed to clean 5 foot of grass exactly to a line when I can't see the ground? So,
Survey it.
yes, we cleared the area so we.
Put up posts.
Yeah. So we did, we tried to stake out as best, and we that's what we did, we cleared. Then we did our surveys, we turned in a grading permit. Foundation and building, we said, is gonna be done. That will allow us to do what Wayne wants. I've given it to Matt Toma will give me a schedule of when his guys are gonna stake the property.
Just a note, Sean,
It solves all this.
I've worked a lot along property lines, whether it's logging, tree work, a little bit of dirt work. You generally stay off other person's property. I'm not saying you can't ever have a problem, but you don't just say, well, I kind of need to go over there and do it. You just don't do that.
We cleared, it's very hard to stop, and you're talking widths of like 3 foot. We tried, but we cleared debris. It's done. But we are staking out as what's requested.
The bottom line is that a mistake happened. I was not informed it happened. It shouldn't have happened. And
Fair enough.
My apologies because I made a mistake. I mean, my people made a mistake.
Go ahead and have a seat.
I owe him.
I'm gonna butt in here out of line and rudely. There was fence lines down both of those. The point at the triangle that I pointed was a major location that is a survey monument that covers much greater area that has been there for over 100 years. There is little or no excuse for that, and that's gonna cost them to put it back in.
Yeah, whatever. It's, I just have to say, for me personally, is that I wasn't out there, I wouldn't have allowed it, but I'm responsible ultimately, so that's it, whatever Wayne
Fair
and I
enough.
have to do, that's fine with me.
Okay, well, we don't need to.
We'll agree. That's not an issue here. It appears that my suggestion that we join together with all the other developers is not gonna fly. And I thought it was a good idea.
If you join together with them, I think it'll fly. But if you
Well,
want us to put them in the boat with you when they don't want to be in there, not going to
I
fly.
understood what happened. I went to Chuck and asked if we could consider this. And Chuck said, no, we can't. And it was denied. And I said, do I go to the planning commission or do I go to the supervisors? And Chuck said, I think it would be better to go to the supervisors and say, okay, it was denied. Would you consider having him to be able to reconsider and have staff work with the property owners? If the property owners don't want to work on it, and if you guys don't want to do it, that's fine. Let's just go on. And I apologize that I brought you into this morass.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, that's it, you with me. So, if, come what may, you guys can come what may, and thank you for the consideration, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I have one more comment. I actually think this JPA is a good thing, and I'll tell you why. It brings everybody together to make sure that this development is done right, okay? If we deny the JP right now and the Reagans move forward with developing their high-rise hotel and leaves Jackson Gate Road the way it is, that's a problem. That is going to open up the doors for future problems, whereas I think we all need to get together. Like Ron and I got together yesterday for 3 hours, and I think this JPA would do that, where we can then sit down and take a look at the road and take a look at you said 2011 Caltrans design? They're putting a 2011, that's 14 years ago. Caltrans designed something 14 years ago, did not know about my 21 acres, did not know about Vince Aguirre's property, and came up with a design, and they're running with it today in 2025? That doesn't work. Things have changed, and so I think this JPA, even though I was for it until I found out there's one lane in, and then I was against it. Now that I've listened to everything, I think we need to do that. I think we need this so we can get together, hammer out all the problems, create a good development, not just for him, create a good development for me and Vince Aguirre. There's other ideas we haven't even presented that can be very good for the county. So I think you guys need to think about it. and
There's
approve it.
nothing prohibiting you from meeting with the Reagans and sorting out whatever you want.
Right.
You're just asking us to force the Vince Aguirres and the Kazads to do it, and maybe they don't want to. So there's nothing prohibiting you from having any meetings you want and negotiating anything
something?
you want to do.
This is all a negotiation phase. This is to talk about the problems and resolve their problems along with my problems. And so I think this is probably a good thing now that I've listened to it. And 1 lane in and 2 lanes out is not going to cut it. And that's what we got right now. And if we turn this JP down and don't do it, then we have no way of getting together as a group and trying to fix the problems.
You can still have meetings with them.
Well,
You can still get together because it's business
you
is
heard that
business.
they're marching down to getting a building permit and building on their own. And I would like to be a part of that so that we can all have an infrastructure that works for everybody. Because right now, the infrastructure works for them, and it doesn't work for anybody behind them. And that's a problem. Thank you.
Vice Chair had a comment.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Supervisor Crew.
Chairman, the only way this would work is if they did look at the traffic study and develop it for Vince Aguirre's property and Dwayne's property, and figure out that it's $2.5 million, and Vince Aguirre and Dwayne give a check to the Regans so they can finish the whole thing at one time. Other than that, we're just wasting our time.
That's about it.
They said they'll pay their fair share, but do they want to pay it up front when they may not build something in 20 years?
Do we need a motion?
Chuck, just for clarification here.
So
Oh, sorry.
the interesting thing is this request for a reimbursement agreement or benefit assessment district, it really was never up to the planning department to have one or not. It would have been a board question.
Okay.
So I think that's probably how you treat it, as just this was a request to the board. And if you could either formally deny it, or if you take no action, if you don't direct staff to work on it, it doesn't happen. So it doesn't, I mean, I guess my point is you don't need a formal motion, but you can. If you just simply, by consensus, take no action, then there is no, the staff's not working on any sort of agreement.
So my question to you, Chuck, is that are we stopping any other if that is a choke point, if they only did, let's say, 3 lanes, would any other development be able to be beyond the other 2 owners to the 3rd or the 4th owner back in the back section back there?
If future development is proposed, the county always has the option to say we need to do a cumulative impacts analysis on it and have it subject to CEQA, and then whatever those impacts are, whatever those mitigations need to be, whether they're road, water, sewer improvements, then become part of that project. In Reagan's case, it was a ministerial project. Their turn lane that they've voluntarily offered to put in there was no nexus to the height of the building. That
Right.
was immaterial. So that's the reason why it wasn't addressed there. But in doing so, then some projects that may be ministerial in the future then become subject to CEQA, if you want to go that route. A housing development project almost assuredly would be subject to CEQA.
Was CEQA.
There are some.
If the hotel property is developed and it only allows 3 lanes, but the CEQA says, hey, there needs to be 4 or 5 lanes going in and out of there, how does that work?
If CEQA for a future project suggests that, then it's on that developer that's proposing that project to make that happen.
Right, but if there isn't enough, if there, how does how does that happen,
If it can't happen, if there's no way to make it work,
Right.
then you're looking at a scaled back project.
Okay.
Until it can meet whatever capacity is there to handle it.
And I would add that what's being proposed wouldn't address that issue. What's being proposed is just to reimburse the Reagans for what they are building, not for adding more conditions or more
But if it's something that we're kind of pre-planning, we're trying to look at,
See, that's the thing. We're not they're not adding capacity necessarily for future development.
No.
That's where they'd have to talk, if they want to do something along that line, outside this room. Or in this room if they want, whatever.
Another date.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. I know you folks are ready for a motion and a vote, thumbs up or thumbs down on that. But what I have to add here is actually very important. Can we bring back up that photo one more time? So you can see the curve on Depot Road where it reaches the highway.
right?
To the north of that is the railroad right-of-way. We own that also. So Vince Aguirre always has the way out with that property ownership that will support our development. Okay, but I don't want to take a callous disregard to the remaining property owners around here. And that was in the palm of Reagan's hand with a verbal agreement. But as the story goes, if your word is no good, your signature isn't either. And where we fell apart on that I complained about in the last meeting, was that it's like NASCAR. Until the last corner, and I got put into the wall. Because I wanted to provide the land and participate in that. But what I urgently needed was, in the land exchange, to acquire one more APN, which should not have killed the Reagan development. But that was just a bridge too far. Because this kind of negotiations that goes here tends to only go one way. Supervisor Oneto and Supervisor Carnell, you both ask very good questions. A little bit too late. As Jeff Foxworthy says, here's your sign. Be a little more cautious in the future. Turning it down now is certainly without prejudice, if I understand it right. It can be brought again. I think we're not ready today. Thank you.
There should be a clarification. We had sold the building, or sold the property to Maverick. And Maverick didn't need the other two parcels. They didn't need the boundary line adjustment for the parcels. So I went to Wayne and I offered him 2 BLA potentials. And we set up a map that he's talking about. And it was all predicated upon Maverick. Well, Maverick then backed out of the deal. So I was unable to complete the discussion that I had with Wayne that he's irritated about. But it wasn't done to pick on Wayne. It was done because of we had a material change. Maverick backed out. I'm stuck with 3 parcels and I have to make it work and so on. So I apologize if Wayne feels I took advantage of him. But for clarification, I really am not the bad person that was made out to be. So thank you.
I understand, thank you. Anybody else want to talk about this? Okay, back to the board for motion or direction.
I think just let it
Let die.
die like it is. They want to come back a later date, they can.
Okay,
I think Mr. Regan knows kind of where the board is, so unless he can work something out with his neighbors, as a group, it's, yeah.
Supervisor Epperson?
Yep, I'm right with you.
I'm with you.
Okay. This subject will die as is, but it is not it can be brought back at any time.
Kind of almost remind me of having a family reunion.
Okay. We're 10:30, so we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll start the time certain meeting.
I have another matter that I would like to just present because it's ending, is that my partner, Stan Lukowitz, passed away, and everybody knows him and so on. And I've been getting together. The family is more or less celebrating in Sacramento and so on, but I feel that our community and I've talked to various folks, Manacero and Lawton, about having basically a celebration of an iconic legacy for our community. And I wanted to present it to the supervisors because we feel that this presentation to basically celebrate this man, Stan Lukowitz, is probably necessary, and it hasn't been brought up, and I felt it necessary that I appeal to the supervisors to maybe they would like to come to the Lawton Ranch on July the 13th. And
Normally, this would be brought up during public matters, not on the agenda.
okay,
So
I'm sorry.
I'll give you a little leeway, so you've brought it up, so you've done the invitation.
Just
So
July 13th? Did you have a time?
We don't have the time. We're just putting it together, and I think it'll probably start around 12 o'clock, but I apologize if I was breaking the rules.
I understand. I appreciate it. So board can take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we still have Supervisor Crew. Okay. Oh, he turned his sound on. Or did you turn his sound on? Supervisor Crew, are you available?
Yes, I am, but it shows the host has disabled my video.
Okay, well, we're trying to fix that right now.
It's finally not your fault.
Okay, start it up again.
Me or her?
No, you, Pat, sorry.
The rules of Zoom that you have to see the individual nowadays is
You cannot start the host is asked to start, okay.
there we go. We see you, kind sir. Welcome back.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yep, we got you good.
Well, that's not what the doctor said.
And so now we go on to regular agenda, time certain, 10:30, code enforcement, discussion possible action regarding the findings of fact and law made by the Administrative Abatement Hearing Board, May 21st, relative to occupied trailer on property on 16,500 Carolyn Way, Pioneer.
Good morning, board.
Morning.
Morning.
Now, this is time certain is not a public meeting. Okay.
Not a public hearing.
Public hearing, that's what I'm trying to say.
Are you ready? The parcel of real property on which the county code violations exist is located at 16500 Carroll Way, Pioneer, California, 95666, unincorporated area, County of Amador, State of California, APN 033320004 is the subject property. Owners of the subject property are Virginia McCurry and Lori Lee Smith. On September 6, 2024, county staff visited the subject property and determined that the junk and debris present in the violation of County Code Section 19.48.30. Additionally, staff determined that a occupied recreational vehicle was being used on the subject property in violation of County Code Section 19.48.080 G1. Staff also took photos. On October 15, 2024, county sent a notice of violation regarding the junk and debris and unlawful occupied recreational vehicle by certified mail to both the landowners at 858 Losian Drive, San Leandro, California 94578, and at 16500 Carroll Way, Pioneer, California. All letters were returned to the sender. On December 6, 2024, county staff inspected the subject property and determined that the above referenced violations continue to exist. Staff also took photos. On December 10, 2024, county staff emailed and hand-delivered a notice of proposed abatement of code violations to the tenant at the subject property. The county also mailed this notice by first class to the landowners at the 858 Lawson Drive, San Leandro address, and at the 16500 Carroll Way, Pioneer. On November 30th, 2024, county staff posted a notice of proposed abatement on the subject property. On January 17th, 2024, county staff spoke with tenant Timothy Nichols for an inspection. The junk violation was corrected to a satisfactory condition for county staff. Staff advised tenant that in order to bring the property into compliance and continue to occupy the trailer, the owner must submit plans to the building department and apply for a use permit for the planning department. Mr. Nichols had previously advised county staff that he was in escrow to purchase the property from the landowner, but has not provided documentation to confirm the sale. Staff also took photos. As of date of this hearing, the above referenced violation is still the unlawful occupied recreational vehicle continues to exist on the subject property. The landowners have received notice and meaningful opportunity to be heard at these administrative abatement hearing proceedings. Based upon the evidence presented at the hearing, including the report and request for recommendations, the findings made as a result, therefore, the Administrative Abatement Hearing Board recommends that the Board of Supervisors of Amador County adopt the hearing board's findings and recommendations and grant 30 days to either secure the trailer from illegal occupancy, slide outs closed, all connections disconnected, and use as storage only, or remove trailer from property. Or in the event the property owner does not comply with this order, direct staff upon the passage of the 30 days to take all necessary actions to abate the violation on the subject property, to obtain all necessary court orders, to make all necessary inspections of the subject property until the violation is remedied, secure a court order to have the occupant removed from the subject property, and to secure a bid to take all appropriate actions to remedy the hazard, including but not limited to securing the property from accuracy. As prevailing party, the county shall recover its cost of abatement, including administrative and investigative costs and attorney fees at the expense of the property owner.
Is there more than one recreational vehicle on that property? Looked like it to me. It looked like they were stacked all the way up the hill.
The last time I was there was one large RV motorhome.
A maroon one.
There may be more at this time, but right now it was the one motorhome.
So what's below it is chicken sheds or something like that? Sheds or lean-tos or? I couldn't really see through the.
Those were probably, this particular property had the burnt down house, which is the garage. So, yeah, so I'm aware of any other sheds that were there the time that I was there.
Couldn't
Unless
see.
they added them, yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board?
Oh,
Okay. Anybody from the public? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion to adopt the hearing board's finding and recommendations.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Jennifer, call for the vote.
Vice Chairman Crew,
aye.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Okay, that is 5-0. Go on to 4B.
So one is the one on Cedar Avenue, correct? Yep, okay.
Cedar Avenue.
All right, the parcel of real property on which the county code violations exist is located at 26528 Cedar Avenue, Pioneer, California, in the unincorporated area, County of Amador, State of California, APN 032-190-007-000, subject property. The owners of the subject property are Richard Glover and Gina Lincoln. On May 31st, 2024, county staff visited the subject property and determined that an occupied recreational vehicle was being used on the subject property in violation of County Code Section 19.48.080G1 and observed an accumulation of junk and debris in violation of County Code Section 19.48.130A. Staff's observation of the uninhabited trailer indicated there is no proper disposal of solid waste in violation of Amador County Municipal Code Sections 7.24.020 and 7.24.030. On June 6, 2024, county sent a notice of violation regarding the unlawful occupied recreational vehicle and junk by certified mail to the landowner at 6900 Almond Avenue, space 289, Orangevale, California, 95662, and to the current residents at the subject property. On June 21st, 2024, county staff inspected the subject property and determined that the above referenced violations continued to exist. On July 1st, 2024, county staff posted a notice of proposed abatement of code violations on the front door and the trailer door at the subject property. The county also mailed this notice by first-class mail to the landowners at the 6900 Almond Avenue, Orangeville address. On September 6, 2024, county staff inspected the subject property and determined that the above referenced violations continue to exist. As of date of this hearing, the above referenced violation of junk, trash, and the unlawful occupied recreational vehicle continues to exist on the subject property. Landlords received notice of a meaningful opportunity to be heard at these administrative abatement hearing proceedings. Based upon the evidence presented at the hearing, including the report and request for recommendation and the findings made as a result thereof, the Administrative Abatement Hearing Board recommends that the Board of Supervisors of Amador County adopt the hearing board's findings and recommendation and grant 30 days to either secure the trailer from the illegal occupancy, slide outs closed, all connections disconnected, and use as storage only, or remove trailer from property, and remove all junk and trash from the property. In the event the property owner does not comply with this order, direct staff upon the passage of the 30 days to take all necessary actions to abate the violation on the subject property, to obtain all necessary court orders, to make all necessary inspections of the subject property until the violation is remedied, secure a court order to have the occupants removed from subject property, and to secure a bid to take all appropriate actions to remedy the hazard, including but not limited to securing property from occupancy or demolition of the structure and clearing all solid waste and junk. As prevailing party, the county shall recover its cost of abatement, including administrative and investigative costs and attorney fees at the expense of the property owner.
Okay, anything from the
questions?
public? Supervisors? Okay, look for a motion.
Move that we follow the recommendations of the
Code enforcement?
Code Enforcement
Hearing board.
Hearing Board. Thank you.
Okay,
Second.
okay, Supervisor Crew seconded. Jennifer, call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Onetto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson.
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Okay, that passed 5-0. On to 4C, 14777 Immigrant Trail River Pines.
Okay, the parcel of the real property in which the county code's violation exists is located at 14777 Immigrant Trail, River Pines, in the unincorporated area, County of Amador, State of California, APN 014-042-030-000 is subject property. Owners of the subject property is Arlo Brodell. On October 30th, 2024, county staff visited the subject property and determined that the junk and debris present when is in violation of County Code Section 19.48.130. Staff also took photos. On November 6, 2024, county sent a notice of violation regarding the junk and debris by first class and certified mail to the landowner at 9707 West Dublin Canyon Road, Castro Valley, California, 94552. On January 10, 2025, Code Enforcement inspected those subject property and determined that the above referenced violations continue to exist. On January 10, 2025, notice of proposed abatement of code violations was sent to property owner first class mail at the 9707 Dublin Canyon Castro address and posted on the property on January 14, 2025. The final inspection was scheduled in the notice for February 13, 2025. Staff also took photos. On February 21st, 2025, Code Enforcement performed the inspection and confirmed that the violations have not been remedied. Staff also took photos. As of the date of this hearing, the violations still exist on the subject property. Landowner received notice of a meaningful opportunity to be heard at these administrative abatement hearing proceedings as required by law. Based on the evidence present at the hearing, including the report and request for recommendation and findings made as a result thereof, the Administrative Abatement Hearing Board recommends that the Board of Supervisors of Amador County have him remove all junk and trash from the property within 30 days. In the event the property owner does not comply with this order, direct staff upon the passage of the 30 days to take all necessary action to abate the violation on the subject property, to obtain all necessary court orders to make all necessary inspections of the subject property until the violation is remedied, secure a court order to have all solid waste and junk removed. As prevailing party, the county shall recover its cost of abatement, including administrative and investigative costs and attorney fees at the expense of the property owner.
Okay, anything from the public? Supervisors? Call for the motion.
Moved.
Okay, Supervisor Crew moved.
Second.
Call for a second. Okay, Supervisor Carnell's second.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Onetto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. And last but not least, 23045 Roden Lane Pioneer.
The parcel of real property on which the county code violation exists is located at 23045 Roden Lane, Pioneer, unincorporated area, County of Amador, State of California, APN 030-350-005, subject property. The owner of the subject property is William Bournes. On August 4, 2023, county staff visited the subject property and determined that an occupied recreational vehicle was being used on the subject property in violation of County Code Section 19.48.08 G1 and observed an accumulation of junk and debris in violation of County Code Section 19.48.130A. Staff took photos. On October 20th, 2023, county sent a notice of violation regarding the trash, unlawful occupied recreational vehicle, building without a permit, and sewage by first class and certified mail to the landowner at P.O. Box 1195, Pine Grove, California 95665. On December 18, 2023, county staff mailed a notice of proposed abatement of code violations by first class mail to the landowner at the P.O. Box, and the notice was also posted on the property January 4, 2024. On February 22nd, 2024, a final notice of proposed abatement of code violations and inspection warrant notice was sent to the landowner, P.O. Box 1195, Pine Grove, and emailed to the landowner's son, Chris. At final inspection, a final inspection was scheduled for March 15, 2024. On March 15, 2024, county staff conducted an inspection of the property and took staff photos. On June 7, 2024, county staff obtained an inspection warrant that was executed on June 12, 2024. The property was found to be in violation of California Building Code Section 116 and 2019 California Building Code 105.1 permits, California Building Code 1.8.4.1 permits required, Amador County Code 1032, vehicle abatement, Amador County Code 19.08355, Amador County Code 19.08.360, and the Health and Safety Code sections 25100-25259, and the California Code of Regulations section 2631 and 2651. Staff took photos. On July 1st, 2024, a final notice of abatement of code violations was sent to the landowner by first-class mail to the P.O. Box. The final inspection was scheduled for August 2nd, 2024. On August 2nd, 2024, county staff came to an agreement with the property owner's son to remove the code violations with the final deadline set for the January 10th, 2025. Staff last visited the property November 27th, 24, and observed that violations expected to be removed by the January 10th deadline were still present. Staff also took photos. On February 26, 2025, staff received an email from the property owner's son asking for additional extension from the original deadline. Staff responded to the email to schedule a final inspection with the son, but never received a response. It is presumed by staff the violation last observed November 27, 24 is still present on the property as the date of this hearing. On April 10, 2025, staff visited the adjacent parcel next to the subject property with permission. Staff observed that the junk and building violations continue to exist on the subject property. Staff took photos. As of date of this hearing, the above referenced violation continues to exist on the subject property. The landlord received notice and meaningful opportunity to be heard at these administrative abatement hearing proceedings. Based upon the evidence presented at the hearing, including the report and requested for a recommendation and the findings made as a result thereof, the Administrative Abatement Hearing Board recommends the Board of Supervisors, Amador County, to have them remove all junk and trash from the property within 30 days, obtain a building permit for the attached canopy roof to shed, or obtain a demo permit to have it removed. In the event the property owner does not comply with this order, direct staff upon the passage of the 30 days to take all necessary actions to abate the violations on the subject property, to obtain all necessary court orders, to make all necessary inspections of the subject property until the violation is remedied, secure a court order to have all the solid waste and junk and the illegal structure removed. As prevailing party, the county shall recover its cost of abatement, including administrative and investigative cost and attorney fees at the expense of the property owner.
Okay, anything from the public? Anything from supervisors?
Just, so the violations on that property are visible from the neighbor's house?
Yes.
Okay.
And so call for the motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the hearing board's findings, recommendation without further notice.
Okay,
Second?
Supervisor Nato, second. Call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Thank you.
Were we gonna? Oh. All right, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we go on to item 3C, Building Department fee schedule update and increase.
Good morning, Todd Barr with the Building Department. This morning I'm here to discuss the fees of Building Department. The last increase was adopted in 2020, so it's been about 5 years since we did that. I recommended after that, there was another phase scheduled. And I recommended at that time that we just stand down, kind of wait for things to stabilize. Things were a little shaky at that point. And as it turned out, in Amador County, the billing stayed pretty steady. We did real well, and it really didn't have much of a downturn at all. And also, at that point, materials shot way up. So there was a huge increase in the cost of materials and a huge increase in the cost of building. Again, a reason to just kind of maintain our fees at that point. So over the years, things have stabilized. Costs of materials have gone down. Building just maintained pretty steady. We're down a little bit this last month, but for the year, we're actually going to exceed the number of residential or houses, residential construction that we did last year by about, it's probably by about 3 different residences. The way that the fees, that we do the fees in the building department is we have 2 different types. We have what we call an over-the-counter fee, which doesn't require much of a review usually. And those type of projects, either the cost, if you did it by valuation, would cause the fees for the work that we have to do on that project to just be ridiculous for us. That's not the point of the building department. The building department is to pay for themselves and to pay for the work that they actually do. Then the other ones on the over-the-counter fees are the ones that, well, the valuation it wouldn't pay us to collect the money. So we have a set fee that pays for the number and pays for the maintenance and the administration we have to do on those. The other type of fee that we have is based on valuation, which is larger construction projects, additions, tenant improvements, and it's also based on the type of construction that we do. For instance, 5B, which is a standard wood frame construction, 2A, which would be like a steel frame and steel building. So anyway, we have, as you see, what I've attached here is a fee based on the over-the-counter, and then there's also another sheet that shows you how we figure the valuations on the different types of construction based on the square footage. At this point, the fees that we are asking are compared to surrounding jurisdictions are, for the most part, considerably less. There's some of them that come close, but like on the over-the-counter permits, we compared as closely as we could with what they had them named and what they charged for those. The first thing that stands out is probably the hourly rate we charge, which with the increase would be $135. Others we're looking at over $170. And then I think the lowest or closest one is right in 140s. So we're still lower. Overall and generally speaking, we're asking for a 10% increase for this year after 5 years of holding steady. I think that's reasonable, and I think that is enough at this point to cover our costs of operation, or at least cover a considerable amount of our operation, and would be what we needed to continue. Do I have any questions at all?
I stopped by the building department yesterday, and you guys so kindly did some calculations for me. If I were to walk in and want to build a 1,500 square foot home, the increase that you're asking for would raise my permit fees by $203. So
That's correct.
Not a significant amount.
That's fair. Yeah, the biggest thing for building fees is always the parks and the school.
Parks and schools are taking it, but we're not. So a little bit of an increase seems reasonable.
Okay, anything from the public? Yes, sir.
As many of you know, parks, schools, I don't really like kids anyway. Just kidding.
I hope so.
Parks and schools are important. And as Mr. Carnell pointed out, Supervisor Carnell pointed out, that's just a drop in the bucket when it comes to building. You know, I'm not sure what the cost of a house is now to build in Amador County now, just in another county. Speaking at their board. And yeah, that's just a drop in the bucket. It is important that we provide these facilities for the public. On a lighter note, I was just over at the building department, and I had put a request in there for them to replenish the candy, and I have not seen that yet, Mr. Barr.
We got to raise the fees first.
The candy.
Can't. Okay.
Ex-cousin. Todd, in his previous job, did an excellent job at code compliance. And since leaving Calaveras County, code compliance has suffered to the extent that the grand jury has stepped in, and they just released a report yesterday, and it was published today, showing that what Todd did over there, or Mr. Barr, did over there was fantastic, and I'm glad that he's serving you guys well. And from what I see and from what I hear on the street, he is doing a fantastic job. So you guys made a good choice there again, as you do with all your employees. So thank you very much, and have a great.
Thank you. Okay, nothing from the public, nothing else from the public, I should say. Back to the supervisors. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Okay, Supervisor Crew moved. Do we have a second?
Second. Good. Brian.
I heard Supervisor Neto first.
Correct.
Okay, call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
So this takes effect 1 July, correct?
1 July, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to 3D.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, just to tie on to that item, we're going to bring back an ordinance to restate these fees. That we're setting these via resolution, but there is no underlying ordinance, and it's just a formality, but you'll see it in the future, and we're not increasing fees any further when we see it. So just so
It'll be under consent.
we'll bring it forward.
Well, we'll have to adopt it the regular
okay.
way for an ordinance, but
And then, so will that?
it won't change anything. It'll
But
just be
it'll push the.
memorializing.
But it'll push the date on when we're adhering to the fees, or?
No,
No.
we're putting them in effect with the resolution.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We're on to 3D, General Services Administration, transfer of $112,000 in development impact fees to the city of Sutter Creek for Bryson Park improvements.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
This is a request for the transfer to the city of Sutter Creek for the Bryson improvements, as you mentioned, from the pre-2020 development impact fee Park and Rec Fund. And I mentioned this fund before. This is under the Mitigation Fee Act, and we're required to spend these monies as soon as we have qualifying projects. And the money's been in the account a little too long. And this is a qualifying project, a great project. And Dan LaFontaine, is Dan here?
He took off earlier.
Oh, he
I talked
did?
to him.
Okay,
I talked to
okay.
him briefly, yeah.
He was here to discuss the project. It's basically an ADA improvement to bathroom, which is not in service right now. And then that existing bathroom will become a storage facility. And then there will be a drinking fountain as well.
Okay.
And a drinking area. So if you have any questions about that project.
No?
No?
Anything from the public? Okay, call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the proposed resolution authorizing the transfer of the DIF funds for use at Bryson Park in Cedar Creek.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Okay, that passed 5-0. Okay, we're on to the next one, expenditure of $100,000 in park recreation development impact fees for the museum livery building.
Mr. Chairman, can we go back
Oh,
one
sorry.
second? Just looking over the resolution. Does the resolution talk about the agreement? I didn't see it.
I
There is an agreement as well.
believe so. Let me see. Thought it did. Let's-
Oh, amendment.
Does it mention it?
It says sign a contract, but that would,
There's agreement on here.
It does, okay.
In the resolution?
Yeah, to sign a contract with the city of Sutter Creek to transfer the money. That's paragraph 3.
So they'll,
Yep.
they'll still need to do a contract with us before we, oh, okay.
And we have the agreement from the city of Sutter Creek, so
Okay.
it's just a matter of signing it on our side. And so on the
The next one, 3E.
on the museum project, it's again, transfer from that same fund, the pre-2020 fund. And we have Wayne Garibaldi here to talk about this project.
Now, is this the same project we've been talking about probably the last 6 years?
Oh, you're being kind when you say 6 years. It's been a decade. And hopefully you got a chance to look at the little presentation I put in your packet. I tried to keep that short. I could have made it longer. The exhibits are longer. So I'm not gonna go over that. I'll be happy to answer, the questions and everything. But I kind of just say, well, what should I do with my time up here? And so I thought I would take it from, what we're asking for today and what the past is to kind of what the present and what maybe the future looks like a little bit. And so I would kind of characterize the partnership that the county and the Historical Society has had for the last 12 years as being a modest success. And when I say modest, the facility, stays open. We get visitors. And I don't think anybody gets a lot of complaints about that. So it's not fantastic. I want to point out that the museum is the oldest facility that's owned by the county, okay? And we all know what old, kind of translates to when it comes to buildings. For the Historical Society, like most organizations, we have about 100 members or maybe plus that, but about 10 are active. That's the way most organizations tend to work that way. And then probably out of that 10, about 5 are focused on the museum. And within that 10, their ages range from 65 to 85. That's the 10 active people. And, my experience in the last decade has kind of been that, the county, wherever possible, tries to ignore the museum. I just talk about facts, and that's what it is. The county pays for the utilities, an occasional service call, which we are grateful for. But essentially, if we try not to make any waves, and the county kind of tries to stay blindfolded.
well, plus also, sometimes if we're in it too much, we just get in your way.
And there is some, it's been a good relationship. It has. But I feel the need to kind of point out that with the aging of the Historical Society and the county's kind of blind side to it, the future overall is not bright. You can see that that's a relatively tenuous existence that could put us back where we were in 2009 or 2010. And I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything.
Well, Wayne, if you could explain something to me, what I can't figure out, why is it when I go somewhere, maybe young people are working, hopefully, but when I go to a lot of these deals where people are volunteering, no offense intended, but I'm getting to be one. You see the cotton tops there, and they're out working the young ones, if there's any young ones there. There's something wrong with that picture.
Well, that's, I'm not denying that, but that number one, I don't have a solution to that. You don't have a solution to that. And we work on trying to get people engaged that way. Wanted to point out that you could probably take $1 million and put it into that museum and not see where it was spent. I mean, it's an old building, and we know what construction stuff costs. I don't see the county ever taking back over operation of the museum. That would probably cost you $200,000 a year. So neither one of those things are going to happen. The Historical Society in the counties, what we do is we keep all the balls in the air, we keep it going, and I'm okay with that, or I think that's okay. But I do think we have to look at the future and how this is going to play out that way. And we have examples of how some of that stuff has worked at the courthouse and Preston Castle and Kennedy Mine and Knight's Foundry, that if you don't look ahead for what the next 5 years or 10 years is going to bring, sometimes that doesn't work out very well in terms of those things. And those ones I brought up, those are the successes. We've come back from the brink, with those. Anyway, so what am I asking of you guys by, doing all this stuff? We've got a barbecue coming up. I know this sounds like a weird way to get to an invitation, but I'd like to see if the supervisors can make it to the barbecue. I won't talk while I'm handing that out. It's on a Sunday. We'd be happy to pay your entrance fee. Len is gonna come so he can take a look at his facility. And, what I'm asking for is, come have a good time, have a nice steak sandwich, and they are legitimate steak sandwiches. They're like, at least a ½ an inch thick. They're not the things we get sometimes that they call steak sandwiches. There'll be some music that way. But take a look around, how I got involved. I'm not a museum guy. I'm not a history guy, okay? Those are things. But in spending a little bit of time there, I think it's worth saving. Okay, it's a cool little place in a little island of the past that way. It functions as a park, and so come and make your own, assessment that way. And I think that if you make a decision that inside ourselves we all do that, I'm not going to let this be one of those things that falls by the wayside or that goes into decay that way. Then we can figure out some ways to make it better. So that's my spiel. And then with that, I'll answer any project. We're excited about the livery project. It'll be the first thing happening, but it's a matter of addressing the whole thing
With
long
this
term.
money, though, when do you think you'll be able to get to start working?
Well, it all kind of speeded up when we had this large donor come forward and saying, hey, I want to see something happen. The switch to the metal building will speed things up quite a bit because that's less, but we still kind of have to give them the go-ahead, have them draft a set of drawings and plans, changes the foundation a little bit that way. So we would expect to break ground this year, okay, probably in fall that way, and maybe finish off get the middle part of the building done in spring. And I'm not the building guy. You understand that. But I just look logistically that if we get the foundation in here in fall, and then it may wait until spring until the actual building goes up. That would be the plan.
Can you see it from your house?
I suspect I probably can see it from my house because I can see the train barn building that we put up. So yes, and it's the red color kind of stands out a little bit. But it'll be nice to have something new, and we're hoping that we get the community a little more excited about seeing something happening, over there.
Okay.
I got one question.
Here we go.
Yep.
Is it going to be 100% metal building?
In terms of
the exterior?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what about insulation?
The bid we have does have insulation on the inside of it, that way. And as I said, we have future plans. Right now, as things are wont to do, we're already probably about 20 grand short. We were about 485, and now we've crept up to being about 20 grand short, which I think we can manage that way. But We're trying to put things in for the future in terms of being able to have an ADA bathroom in there, be able to have a small commercial kitchen if we want to be able to hold events. And there've been talk about being able to put a skin on the outside of the building, so it's not something we have the ability to do today, but at least they talk about purlons and things that have to go into the building during construction to be able to do something later on that doesn't cost you a fortune to do. So
How many people you put this out to bid to? I mean, just,
right now, we only have the one bid. We've had a couple of other people look at it, and so that's part of the other process is getting a second bid.
I'd get multiple bids.
Okay, that's fair.
And you know, one thing I wonder, I'd look at is an all-metal building would kind of almost be out of place there.
It is, but it said, we've been at this a decade, okay? And we've just now, we said, the cost of the wood building that we have plans for has climbed faster than our fundraising.
Okay.
So this kind of gets something.
I mean, I don't know, if you want to do wood, like, board and batten or something like that on the outside, I could probably donate the wood. Maybe my brothers and I could, but I mean, I think wood would look a lot better than, I mean, I can understand a metal building, metal roof maybe.
Well, let me talk to you after that, because getting the, wood donated would probably make a significant difference, or at least we would have some wood to put on the outside of the metal building if that's the thing.
It'd fit in a lot better.
I don't disagree with that, although, again, taking better care of the overall facility would make it fit in better too. We're doing the best we can to keep it looking nice.
I appreciate the efforts. I mean, there's been a lot of people done a lot of work up there, and it's really nice.
I personally think, and as I said, I'm not the guy for this, but as I said, I think it's worth saving, and trying to keep it, kind of how it is, but keep it in good shape.
No, history's
And I think whatever we do with this building, people got two sides to that. One, they talk about the wood building, and we would like that better, and I think that would be the first choice. And then we got a side that says, metal buildings have come a long way, and with windows and a cupola and all that stuff, that it's not going to, and it'll be in the right red color or whatever, that it'll be tolerable. So that's the two sides I'm trying to balance with various people.
Yeah, I'm not squawking, I'm just questioning.
Yeah, I don't blame that, as I said, and if you think you can, at some point we had tried to talk to S&P and Red Emerson or the contacts there about donating wood, because some of the people involved that are better construction say, hey, if we get the wood donated, we might be able to squeak by with that, get a shell done in wood for the same 500,000, so.
I need to move this along.
Okay, sorry.
So, do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved. Go ahead, Pat.
Okay, and I'll put a second for Supervisor Crew and call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Onetto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hope to see you at the barbecue.
Yep. You there. It's on the calendar.
General Service Administration Amendment to Purchase Policy 5-100 Municipal Code, Chapter 3.08, Purchasing. I'm not going to read through the rest of this.
Yeah. I'll discuss it. We're asking for some amendments to the purchasing chapter, that's 3.08, and also the purchasing policy, it's 5-100. And the amendments are primarily cleanup, removing references to obsolete law and other items, and also to make sure that the policy is consistent with the amendment. And the two substantive amendments of note that are listed here is an increase for the purchasing agent from 50,000 to 75,000, and that 50,000 was per government code, and basically that government code allows you to make amendments adjusting for inflation, and it's been a long time, and so that's why we're at 75 now. And the other significant change is the threshold for the departments without purchasing agent authority is currently 500, and to make things more efficient, we want to bump that up to 1,000. And one change that's not on here that I discussed with Supervisor Carnell and also with Chuck is to bump up for Public Works the commodity purchasing for 3,000. We just wanted to focus only on the commodities because there are certain rules that go into play when you're above $1,000 for a service contract, and we just want to make sure that that we have eyes on the prevailing wage requirements. And so there's that change, and then one minor change I noted here in the ordinance on the delegation provision. It says where I would delegate to a subordinate director in writing certain authorities. And I want to remove the director portion, so it's just subordinate, because right now there's a director in that role, but there may not be a director at some point in the future when there's a retirement or something like that. I know that Danielle's listening, so don't take that the wrong way. And that's it. If you have any questions for me about any of the proposed amendments.
I've got one little, on page 105, it talks about the 4% bid may be deducted from the amount. That's for local bidders. And I was talking to our CEO there about maybe bumping that up, because I mean, I want to make sure that we're encouraging locals to bid and then to give them some preference where it's legal. That's, I think in the city it was like 10%. I'm not sure what the threshold is there, how that would look. Sorry not for contacting you earlier. But it's 105 there, and it's in the section B, the limits in consideration of local tax reimbursement. Local businesses promotion is provided for qualifying services and goods purchased in the county. 4% of the bid may be deducted from the bid amount for all local bidders in determining the lowest responsible bid. If there's a way to encourage local bidding, I would encourage that.
Okay. My only caveat is that I haven't had a chance to look at that.
That's
so
fine, that's fine.
I don't know if that's tied to law.
Right.
But any, I have no objection to making any amendment right now about that. And if there is a legal cap, then I can just simply bring it back on consent and take that back to.
I just want to encourage local people to respond where we can. I mean, it's, you spend money in the community, definitely it gets, spread around quite a bit.
Sure.
More, so.
Did you have a percentage in mind?
I'm not sure the law allows.
Okay.
100%.
100%, there you go. I thought it was 10 in the city, but I could be wrong on that. That was an old conversation, probably as many years ago.
Do you want me to take a look at that and just bring that little section back?
I'd be fine with that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question on that too. It says local area.
Yeah, that's, I know that.
I don't know if that legally has to be that terminology, or if it could be Amador County.
I don't know, but I do want to say, we can make it Amador County, or we can make it regional.
Well, local area, if I was somebody, I might be out of San Diego, I'd say, hey, I'm local.
Yeah.
That'd be my argument.
Right, I know.
We've
we could
defined
define
local. Yeah, we've defined local as any contiguous county. So that does include Sacramento.
Let's shrink that down.
Yeah.
Well, I would say we could shrink it down to the county, and then we could make a different percentage for
Pine Grove.
contiguous counties, if that would be appropriate. Not to get too, far into the weeds there, but.
And now that I'm thinking about it, one of my next moves is to bring forward CUPCA amendments, and that's something that we talked about, Supervisor Ornetto, and that would change the threshold significantly for local developers of public works projects. So maybe it makes sense for me to, once I really get my head around those CUPCA rules, bring those forward along with this issue, because it may render this issue moot.
Okay.
So let's, because that's going to be really beneficial for the local contractors.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Supervisor Crew?
And Glenn, is that in that $1,000 raise from 500, with the cost of everything now, 2 boxes of cornflakes is $500.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think that we should maybe raise that to 2,000 or 1,500, So you're not coming back in a year for another raise?
You've been reading my notes?
Well, Supervisor Crew, that's completely up to the board. My only restriction that I would say is service contracts not to exceed 1,000, because I just want GSA to have eyes on prevailing wage issues.
Well, I had the same thought as Supervisor Crew.
Okay.
And I'd say especially like the shops, where our GSA shop and maybe public works shop, because there you start getting into parts for vehicles, you can hit $1,000 so quick, it's not funny. One part.
Yeah.
And they're there trying to get a vehicle repaired. And I think it's something you would kind of keep an eye on a little bit. If it starts getting out of hand, you can say, hey,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things we're looking at right now is a lot of the purchases are through Home Depot. We're going to move those to an Amazon contract, where what we're proposing is for departments to put their purchases in that cart, and then GSA once a day would just make the purchase for everybody. Not tell people they can or can't, but that would give us the opportunity to have our eyes on what's going on. And so if there was an issue.
we're talking about local businesses.
Yeah, okay. That would
What's
cover
the
probably
thought?
about 60% of the purchases that are through the Office Depot or Amazon.
Probably go Walmart, buy a similar thing, they're local at least, or, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
that's true.
not the preference, but I mean, I know it's 6 1/2 dozen the other, but at least some of that tax revenue would be retained in our county.
Mm-hmm.
So are we talking about 1,500 for all departments and then a carve out for 3,000 for public works? Is that what we're saying? For commodities?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Parts and pieces. And
Try to purchase.
And I think that's something you probably keep an eye on. And I'm sure, somebody starts gets wild with it. I think you could see that, I would think.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. I think I could live with that.
Okay.
And the purchases, what are they largely, is it like office supplies or building supplies or materials or, I mean, all the
The
above?
purchases I was referring to are predominantly office supplies.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I prefer to go as local as possible if it's, if it's doable, but.
We can encourage, we do training videos, and we can encourage departments to do their shopping at Walmart and local.
It's whoever's local, I mean, it benefits all of us twice then, so.
Okay.
I mean, you don't want to get taken to cleaners going just local, but hey, if it's in the ballpark.
Yeah. And Walmart.
And it's kind of nice to keep your brick and mortar stores alive.
Yep.
Okay, any comment? Oh,
Sorry.
One more thing, just to clarify, I think we fixed the local thing in 2019 when we did the update, because it currently reads that anything within Amador County is considered local. So that
There you
is
go.
only.
Okay, that works.
We were talking about the preference for local suppliers. So in the definitions, area is defined as the boundaries of Amador County. So later on, when it says local area,
Very good.
located in the area would reference back to Amador County.
Okay, anything from the public? Okay, back to the supervisors.
So are we going to make a motion considering the changes that were discussed? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah, adopting, I believe it's waiving the reading of the ordinance and putting it on consent, putting the ordinance on consent for next meeting.
Okay.
And the board can adopt the policy right now with the changes you're talking about. Because everything we were talking about is policy oriented. It's not in the Muni Code.
So I make a motion that we adopt with the $1,500 limit for all departments and $3,000 for public works. Is that the correct
Would
motion?
that also, into, what about like the shop too, as far as GSA? Add that in too?
Do you want them at 3,000 also?
For the vehicle shop, the motor pool.
Yeah.
Talking about, yeah.
Okay, so for public works and the motor pool.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
3G, Administrative Agency, discussion of possible action relative to adoption of the 2025-2026 fiscal year recommended budget.
Well, Supervisors, this has been one of the more challenging years of my tenure. We have balanced the budget. There are a few things that I'm not as comfortable with as I would like to be. This step is the preliminary recommended budget. It has to be done before the end of the month. We will come back with a final budget in late August or September, whereas all these assumptions will be fleshed out. So in order to close that last gap, the DA did come in with the cuts that the board had directed him to make. We did have a gap beyond that. We have closed that with an assumption that our property taxes will go up by about 3% this year. We had trimmed that down to 2.5%. I brought it back. Talking with the assessor, I think it's a pretty good assumption, but it could go awry on us. I was talking to Supervisor Oneto about that, the issues that they're facing out in Shenandoah. There could be a decline out there, and all of that will be hurting us into the future. So we'll know once the assessor certifies his rolls. We'll know what those numbers are. Looks like our predictions on sales tax are about right, I think. Any questions?
No.
You know, one concern I have a little bit is we're still using some money that we set aside last year for roads, basically to make the budget work.
Yes, we are.
And I think from what you said, we're going to have some issues next year too, just to weigh some of we have to quantify some money for the state.
And the money will not be there to take back from Public Works again next year.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's I hope all the electeds and department heads that are listening realize, hey, you know, we're still not out of the woods yet. You're right, that money won't be there next year. So we're gonna probably need further cuts at some point. I know by basically cutting the margin closer, you're gonna balance the budget. Hopefully you're correct. If we're not correct, it's gonna be a little problem.
That is correct, yes.
And where I was going with this is I think there's some different entities. There's one I think is really so small, probably I monkey with it, but where county's feeling some pain, I'm thinking like the UCCE. I think we should cut what we give them a little bit. I mean, I know the lady throws out 4-H program right off the bat. Well, that'd be like saying the county could say, hey, we're feeling budget pain, so we must stop all law enforcement, you know. Well, no. Things can be, I'm not saying the sheriff, I'm saying the county itself. Like the board can say, oh my gosh, we gotta cut out all law enforcement. No, that's not our mandate. And that's like UCCE goes out and says, oh my gosh, 4-H. Well, there's other things I think UCCE could tighten their belt, kind of like the county's doing. So I'm gonna make a motion that in this budget, that we reduce UCCE's contribution from the county by $20,000. And with that, I'd make a motion to approve the budget as presented with that change.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so you're seconding that we're taking 20,000 from UCEC. I'm
If we don't
just,
start taking next year, we're gonna have to take a whole lot from everybody.
okay.
So, just to get clarity, Supervisor Oneto, with your motion, we would take that money away and give it to Public Works?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to clarify, how much do we give the UCCE right now currently?
About 150 something, I think.
I'm digging that exact number out of that right now.
And I'm not saying that I dislike UCCE. I like a lot of their programs, but they've been going up and up and up, and our belt gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
Okay, they have a total budget of 180,000. The amount we are giving to them is 154,918. So yes, you were close.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
No.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson,
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Okay, 4-1-0. And on to 3H, discussion of possible action relative to request the Pine Grove Cemetery trustees for the county to take over liability insurance for the trustees.
So with many valiant efforts to give the cemetery away, nobody is interested. And Daenerys is no longer returning my phone calls. So we're at an impasse with the Pine Grove Cemetery, but the trustees who were in the emergency room last night have agreed to stay on to continue to handle the paperwork and the finances, but they're unable to do the mowing and weeding anymore. So there's enough money in there. We negotiated a contract with ACRA starting July 1st. ACRA is going to take care of the maintenance of the cemetery. But the one concern the trustees have is they don't want to be liable. So they've asked if the county could just cover the liability in case of somebody tripping and falling. And it sounds like the county can cover that liability for about $3,000 a year, I think was the estimate that we got.
That's a current estimate.
Well, I think that seems fair and reasonable to me.
I think it buys us time to come up with a plan. Sorry.
Okay, anybody want
I think Vice Chairman Crew would like to speak.
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Cornell, after I talked to you about this a couple of days ago, that number of taking on liability doesn't bother me, but doesn't Pine Grove have a community services district?
They do.
Why can't these guys dissolve and then because you said their bylaws don't allow them to be new directors or all gets crazy, and then go into the community services district because they want to be a town center. You would think they'd want to provide burial service for their. Has that ever been thought of?
I think I could take it back to them. The Pine Grove's Community Services District took over the park and the fire station, and they also give water to the cemetery at cost. But they didn't seem excited about wanting to take over the cemetery either. But I could bring it back to them.
You already through it with them. That was just an idea I came up with.
Supervisor Crew, I'd have to verify it, but my guess is that when that community services district was created, it probably didn't include operating a cemetery. It probably was just water, fire, recreation, but I can look at it.
All right.
Might not be allowed to, I guess is.
So do we need to bring this back then?
No.
Liability insurance issue.
I think in the meantime, we probably should get them covered.
They're
No, but maybe you ought to look at it. I'm for voting for it today, sure, but look at a long-term solution for them.
No, I agree with what Pat's saying. I think it's a good idea, but in the interim, get something that'll cover them.
Right now, they offered this, if we'd cover liability, they'd hang on to buy us time to come up with another plan.
Okay.
So is that your motion?
Any public comment first?
Oh, yeah. Any public comment on this? Okay. Supervisor Cornell, did you want to?
I'd like to make a motion that we cover the cost of liability insurance for the Pine Grove Cemetery trustees.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Jennifer, call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson.
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Review and possible approval of the May 27th Board of Supervisor meeting minutes.
Yeah, I got a change there on page 4 on the tourism marketing district. It has 401, but it hasn't carried unanimous. I think I voted no on that. That seem correct, Jennifer?
I can double check on it, yeah.
Okay, with that, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with minor corrections.
Okay,
I'll second it.
Second.
Just hold on 1 second and I'll.
I think your beat, Supervisor Crew, call for the vote.
Chairman Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Epperson.
Aye.
Supervisor Carnell.
Aye.
And Chairman Brown, there's a gentleman here that would like to speak if you would allow him to.
Okay, come forward real quick. Or go ahead and speak into the mic, because,
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
For a number of years, my wife and I have owned a lot on Sugar Pine Drive, and with dreams of building a small house on it. One of the prohibitive things is the list of what I call windfall profits that some of the agencies take before you can get a building department. Traffic mitigation fee, fire district fee, parks and recreation fee, county facility fee, the school impact fee. These are all things that once I have a house, I would be paying on my annual property tax bill. All these things are listed on there. I have other properties. But as I say, these things add up to $32,500 approximately before I can put a shovel in the ground.
you don't pay all of those annually.
No, I understand. This is
Okay,
just for the.
well, that's what you said. I just want to make sure you
Well, there
understood.
would be.
Some are annual, most are not.
All right. This is something that becomes prohibitive for people that want to build on their property. These fees, you have to come up with 32,000. This amount is maybe half of what it cost me to build a 600, 800 square foot house. Already I can do that for $65,000, $70,000, $80,000. This is $32,000 before I even get started. It's prohibitive for me.
And we've understood this, we've argued this amongst ourselves also, is like the school district fee, we have no jurisdiction over that fee that is required by the school district. ACRA is another board that, for the recreation, that's another board. I mean, that's a different board, but it's a JPA, so the county doesn't have a specific jurisdiction over that. But we try to keep our fees as low as possible. And we just had, a discussion on the building fees today. We're having to raise because of costs and everything else.
I understand that, and I fully support that.
So it's
a windfall profit that I term that I have a difficult time to, because it amounts up to these ones that you say you have no control over. And,
Right.
And I thank you for your time listening to me.
Oh, you know, we wish we could do more because, you know, it's like property taxes unto themselves. 62% of your property taxes for the future it goes to school, and that's by state law. So it's always a,
Would that be one of the ones that recur on the yearly property tax statement?
yep.
Yeah. Well, then they would be getting it from me there.
No, there's a property tax on the value of the property. The
property,
impact fees is a one-time thing.
Yeah,
for the
one
school.
impact fees, so two different subjects, but it's just.
Some-
On the annual property taxes, none of these things appear,
No,
Most of them don't, no. I mean, I have to look at
I
it.
think
Like,
that
there's a school, so much a square foot fee on there. That's a one-time fee.
yeah, it's a
and then and there is a school bond, on your annual taxes, there's a school bond fee,
Yeah, I know
fire
there's a
assessment.
list. There's a list. I just
Right.
figured some of these were on there.
No, unfortunately.
Guess I'm wrong about that. Sorry about
No.
that.
No,
And I do sympathize with you. Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, like I told someone one time, hey, I grew up here. Why the hell have I got to pay these fees? And they're like, well, you got to pay them. And it's part of what it is with Prop 13. A lot of money went away from counties. So it's like this building was paid for, a lot of this is impact fees.
Sure. What
And-
was that, 1979 or something like that, I think. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
thank you, sir.
Appreciate your explanation.
Okay, with that, our meeting is closed. I was 20
Ever
minutes
vote?
late, Supervisor Crew.
No, you did a great job.